Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I am your host, Tiffany Daniels, and yes, we're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but first, the regular disclaimers. First off, healing up still nicely, but every so often, if I move my jaw in the wrong way, say a random word, I get that weird sudden jaw pain on this side. It's fun. Healing is fun. First off, folks, you are going to see the link to this report right there in the description box, alongside the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, also the template, sign your name and click on your senator, and the ever-present and self-explanatory Change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. Now, folks, when we talk about the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of peoples with disabilities being tortured and abused. You got young children present, please use your headphones, alright? Alright, now, it is 4:23 in the afternoon, and it was back to back. Oh my god, today was a nightmare. A nightmare. So if I stumble over any of my words or start suddenly randomly saying, "Thank you for calling Wayfair," my apologies in advance, alright? Okay, so to page 30. The program shall... first. 8.8 IEP Progress Reports, USC Chapter 33, Section 141.4D, 1A, and then I believe that's 8, IDEA Regulations 300 to 347. So I want to see what smoke they decide to blow up our ass, because you remember the New York report, don't you? Where they're not doing any of this shit? Well, let's see what Massachusetts is trying to tell us, shall we? The program shall send copies, at least quarterly, of progress reports to the parents in public school if the student is in a collaborative or private placement. Such reports include written information on the student's progress toward the annual goals in the IEP, specifying each quarter, including information on the extent to which such progress is sufficient to enable the child to achieve the goals by the end of the year. Copies of progress reports shall be maintained in the student records, including documentation of persons or agencies receiving such reports. And it says, implemented but response required. So here's my question. Are you all just satisfied if they get in the proper paperwork? Do you ever actually check up on them, unannounced, to see if they are actually fulfilling the student's IEPs? Anybody can fill out a report and put whatever the hell they want into it. Do you require no evidence to show that they are actually following the student IEPs? Because when you receive a report like you did from the New York School Department, and you say, oh no, they're doing it, see, we have the paperwork, wouldn't you think that you would like to get a hold of the actual camera footage? Because they got cameras everywhere, right? To make sure they were actually following the IEP? Because I would. I don't take just the word of anybody, regardless of who the fuck they are. You can have all the paperwork you want to. All the paperwork in the world. But if you don't got corroborative evidence to back it up, it's just words. And we have already heard from the victims and the New York report that you all do not follow these kids' IEPs at all. In fact, you remove many of the things that it says you should be doing in their IEPs out of their programs from the day they fucking show up. So, why are we not addressing this? This is again blowing smoke up our ass. It's again saying, well, the proper paperwork is done so. No, folks, that is not good enough. I'm sorry. New York did 4, count them, 4 visits. None of them were announced. And the amount of dirt they were able to find was completely astonishing. Completely astonishing. And you remember they backed it up with photos, clips, corroborative witnesses, the testimonies of the New York students themselves. And you're going to smoke up our ass and try to tell the Massachusetts constituents, oh no, honey, no, calm down. See, they put in the paperwork. Everything is fine. Really? Really? Because if you're a fucking parent and that is good enough for you, I don't know what to tell you. When a concern is being brought up, especially to the level that the JRCs are, and it's being brought up by another state department, especially their education department, and all they have to tell you to defend themselves and, their state that's backing them up is, well, they put in the proper paperwork so everything is fine. I would be pissed and I would demand evidence that the IEP of my child was being followed as ordered by state law. This is complete garbage, folks. But moving on. Department of Education comment. While JRC does not have a complete written policy regarding progress reports, here we go. Documentation review revealed that the JRC prepares progress reports that are very thorough, well written, and include highly detailed information of the student's progress toward the annual goals in the IEP and the extent to which such progress is sufficient to enable the child to achieve the goals at the end of the year. Okay, then, and explain to me why was that not done for the New York students? Because they didn't receive any progress reports. None. New York's a huge state. I don't know if you know. They have schools all over the place. But you're going to sit there and tell me, oh, they do highly detailed reports. Somebody's lying here. So which one is it, JRC? Were you discriminating against the New York students and not doing their progress reports for their IEPs? And were you discriminating against them by removing services that were written inside the IEPs, but you were doing it for the Massachusetts students? Or are you falsifying paperwork? Because let's face it, the JRC has a long history of hiding evidence, covering their ass, and faking paperwork. And if anybody cares to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, it becomes more disturbing as you go through each piece of evidence. So yeah, you have to forgive me, Massachusetts, if I don't just take your word for it. So, if they're doing it for the Massachusetts students, why was it not found that the students from New York, or for California for that matter, why wasn't it being done for them? Do you discriminate against your students that come in from other states? That you do not take care of them properly, but you do your Massachusetts students? Or are you lying out your ass and putting in the proper paperwork because you know your fucking state will not do their due diligence and follow up? Just interesting food for thought. 8.9 IEP revisions and changes. The program notifies the responsible public school district and parents whenever the IEP needs to be revised to reflect and change in goals, placement, or return to a less restrictive setting. To no case shall the private school or educational collaborative provide notice of a team meeting required by state and federal special education requirements. In no case shall the private school or educational collaborative conduct a team meeting without authorization and presence of an administrative representative of the responsible school district. In no case shall the private school or collaborative have a new or revised IEP for a student. And yet they choose to remove services all the time. You said so earlier in your report. And again, you're going back on that and said, oh, no, we didn't. We never said that. We never said that. Like, dude, it's right here. Nope, nope, lies. Right? Right? The truth is, the JRC does whatever the hell they want to, and they get the fuck away with it. This whole state, hell, our own federal government fucking protects these people. When the DC District Court ruled in their favor, my God, these are 6 sons of bitches that somehow carry all of this power to continue to do the horrific shit they do to these kids every day. And the only thing Massachusetts has to say is that they do their proper paperwork, so everything must be being done to the letter. Really? Have you not seen the video of Andre McCollins? Have you not seen the testimonies of Jennifer Masumda, Tori, Andre? Have you not read diligency, the 2006 report? Have you not read what has been written and testified to in court by former workers at the JRC? And you really think that sitting there and telling us that the paperwork was done so is good enough? You're going to tell us it's implemented when you did nothing to confirm it other than saying, well, the paperwork's in, so they must be doing it? Seriously? Especially with a school that has surveillance? God. Now, I understand Massachusetts is a relatively decent sized state, and you got a lot of school districts, and especially private schools, that you all monitor. But in a school that is controversial as this, why the fuck are we not dotting all our I's and crossing all our T's instead of throwing out this garbage? Moving on. 8.10 IEP Less Restrictive Placement. The program has a plan for ensuring that there are flexible procedures and mechanisms that maximize opportunities for enrolled students to gain the capacity to return to a less restrictive educational program. Such mechanisms may include, but are not limited to, a capacity for part-time attendance at a public school or in a general education classroom or other community program, or a period of transition from program option to less restrictive program option. Okay, now tell me this, JRC, and you're going to sit there and tell me it's implemented. Really? Really? Because if you talk to any of those victims that went to that school, we're talking Jennifer Masumba, we are talking about poor Andre and his poor mother, we're talking about several individuals who came forward to speak during the hearings here. Nothing was done. Nothing was done. Essentially, they told, you're never going to leave. That these kids will never be smart enough, capable enough, that they're going to be stuck there until the day they die. That is what you all actually do. So what is your proof that they prepare these kids to be transferred into regular education again? Paperwork? 8.11 IEP Transition Planning. Oh, this is going to be a garbage fire. No later than a student is 15 years old, the program works with responsible school district to discuss the student's transitions needs at the IEP meeting. If the appropriate, the team considers and writes specifically designed, measured goals based on age-appropriate transition and assessments related to training, post-secondary education, employment, and where appropriate to independent living skills. If transition services are included in the IEP, they are based upon the student's needs, taking into account the student's preferences and interests, and may include employment or other post-school living objectives, acquisition of daily living skills, and functional vocational evaluation. Partially implemented, response required, yes. Oh, is that a fact? Is that a fact? Where? Where's your transition services? Because, not even in your promotional videos do you ever mention a transition program. You had people like Jennifer Masumba in your school, an extraordinarily intelligent young woman. Did you put her in transition classes? Or do they have to earn the right to be in transition services? Because in every single other fucking state in the union, transition services are automatic as soon as your ass enters high school. I know, I've been through it myself. And my God, my ass graduated in 2004, folks. A long goddamn time ago. And transitions started as soon as I started freshman fucking year. Now you're going to sit there and tell me that you have these services? Where? Are they mentioned in your brochures? Are they mentioned anywhere on your website? On your Twitter page? No. Nowhere. But I bet they mention it in one place. And what do you want to bet? It's the paperwork. And remember, New York also talked about how often they're actually visited by representatives of the school districts. Not at all. Not at all, folks. They dump these kids off and let the JRC handle them. They tell the kids that they have been abandoned there. You've heard these testimonies the same as I have on this channel. They sit there and try to tell me, someone who is specialized in transition age services, and you're going to sit there and fucking tell me you have transition programs? Where? Where are they? Why don't you talk to them about them on this promotion, on those promotional videos? Why aren't you having the students speak on them when you have your testimonies on your YouTube channel? Where are these wonderful, glorious transition programs where they're helping you get into post-secondary education? Oh, and by the by, if you do you expect them to take that fucking sick device with them? But anyways, I'm going to read this part here. We'll close out for the evening. Department of Education findings. Documentation review revealed that a description of transition services is not included on all IEPs. Interviews and documentation review revealed that only a very small percentage of the students who are within the range of transition have had assessments related to training, post-secondary education, employment, and independent living skills. Thank you. In response, JRC sent several Massachusetts students IEPs that do contain either transitional or vocational goals and objectives, but there is no clear written description of how these programs run or relate to the individual student need. That's because they don't exist. How can you detail something when it doesn't exist? Just saying. While JRC describes administering assessment tools to determine transition goals and objectives for students, the school did not provide any completed examples of these. Who's surprised? Additionally, while the JRC administers long-term planning questionnaires, samples of these were sent in response to students. These questionnaires are often incomplete and do not adequately describe how the transition process is envisioned for each individual student or how the school conducts follow-up to these questionnaires. So are you at least going to do that? You're going to do your due diligence on fucking something, Massachusetts? We'll read down below and find out. We're going to go ahead and close out for this evening. We don't get very many views on this channel, especially on this subject. The few that we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So folks, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe, and please don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this evening, and as always, we here at Smelling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.